In the morning, Russia struck again. In total, at least 11 people were killed and more than 30 wounded. Among the victims are children. Kiev, Kharkiv, and Ternopil came under fire. We were in bed when we heard the alarm sirens. Our dogs were very scared and we took them home. Later the rockets came and everything went up in flames. Both dogs burned inside. They could not be rescued. It was similar yesterday. Russia attacked with 14 ballistic missiles and unmanned drones in several parts of Ukraine. Unfortunately, people were injured, residential buildings and a shopping mall were damaged. Russia fills every day with horror and murder. It's simply a drawn-out war. This was Russia's largest drone attack since the beginning of the war. The number of victims of the Russian attack is increasing every day, and there is no sign of an imminent ceasefire. I tried to persuade my daughter to come to us. After all, she lives on the 8th floor in Kiev, and here is the 1st floor. She said, "No, Mom, I won't come." And thank God she didn't, because the rocket hit the place where the children's rooms were. At the same time, the exchange of prisoners of war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Today, the third part of the deal ended, and 303 soldiers returned to Ukraine. I was detained for 17 months, and it was very bad, to be honest. It was a difficult 17 months, but all is well now. The exchange of 1,000 prisoners is the result of recent negotiations between the two sides in Istanbul. The talks took place under pressure from the United States and Donald Trump, who is seeking an end to the bloody conflict. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. Terms will be negotiated between the two sides. Russia's goodwill is hard to believe, observing its successive barbaric attacks on civilian facilities in Ukraine and the subsequent loss of life. This is impossible to forget. I can still hear the bang of the explosion and the cry of the child from the lower floor. I went out barefoot on the glass. I didn't even notice it, but it may have saved my life. Talks and an end to the conflict are being pushed for by the United States, mediated by Turkey among others, as well as the Vatican. It could even take place in the coming days, after the completion of the exchange of 100,000 prisoners between the two sides. A presidential debate ahead of the second round of Poland's presidential election was held Friday evening. It was attended by the Civic Coalition candidate Rafał Trzaskowski and a Citizens candidate Karol Nawrocki.
Oczywiście totalna nieprawda.
Voters are characterized by the fact that they verify all words and declarations, and that's not very favorable for the vice president of the Civic platform, who during the debate has failed to tell the truth more than once. And it started with this request from Rafał Trzaskowski.
O mieszkania komunalne dba pan, bo jest ich
You
mało.
care about communal apartments because there are not enough of them. Only 60 a year are being built by you, while developers are building 14,000 and contributing to your campaign. 60 per year? Let Demagogue check it out and prove the numbers. Well, and to Rafał Trzaskowski's misfortune, the aforementioned Demagogue portal checked and proved the numbers. Karol Nawrocki was telling the truth. Between 2018 and 2024, a total of 423 public housing units were completed by the local government in Warsaw. The number of new municipal housing units in Warsaw is not constant from year to year. Between 2018 and 2024, they averaged about 60 per year. This opened a whole bag with the verification of Rafał Trzaskowski's lies. Among other things, he announced before the nation the good news that the Green Deal is a thing of the past.
Zielony Ład.
The Green Deal is destroying Polish farms. There is no Green Deal. No Green Deal? Not anymore. There is no Green Deal. Come on, Mr. Rafał. However, this good and surprising news, as quickly as it appeared, so quickly has ended, because it turned out that among the European elite, the Green Deal is doing quite well after all. Earlier this year, there were reports that the European Commission wanted to withdraw from the Green Deal. They took their cue from, among other things, the presentation of a new vision for agricultural development and the European Coalition's new program, the European Competitiveness Compass. Even though the European Commission has proposed new programs alongside the Green Deal, it doesn't mean that the Green Deal is gone. Well, if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. But Rafał Trzaskowski had something special prepared. A real ace up his sleeve. The new acquisition in his deck of advisors is the former head of the National Security Bureau from President Andrzej Duda's office, Jacek Siewiera. Rafał Trzaskowski wanted to flash his knowledge of the 2020 National Security Strategy. There is nothing there about artificial intelligence solutions. There is nothing there about drones. And the ace from the sleeve turned out to be nothing, because what Rafał Trzaskowski said turned out to be untrue. The document National Security Strategy of the Republic of Poland was published in 2020 and contains both references to artificial intelligence technology and to unmanned systems, commonly referred to as drones. The vice chairman of the civic platform is dressing himself in the feathers of a world-renowned man. He boasts of his excellent contacts with the American right, which is currently in power in the United States. I have excellent relations with the Republicans. Well, not exactly. Our journalists sent a question to Washington, D.C., to the Republican Party about these excellent relations of Rafał Trzaskowski. The answer is not to the satisfaction of Donald Tusk's deputy.
Komentarz jest jednozdaniowy.
The comment in one sentence, laughable, meaning it evoked laughter. This phrase has evoked laughter in Washington among people who watch what is happening in Poland. Rafał Trzaskowski's statement that he has some great contacts among American Republicans. Well, maybe he doesn't know those Republicans, but at least he insists that he never insulted Donald Trump.
Przede wszystkim Amerykanie I prezydent Trump.
First of all, Americans and President Trump are very pragmatic. I never said a negative word about President Trump. Not a bad word, you say, but unfortunately, this time too, not all the archives burned, and again, old statements of Rafał Trzaskowski were quickly found.
Za każdym razem się zastanawiam,
I wonder every time what kind of misfortune it would be if Donald Trump, and I have to say it here, on whom Law and Justice bet on strongly, if he were in power today, the situation would be completely unpredictable and otherwise very dangerous. That's because Donald Trump has been very much questioning NATO as an organization all along. Therefore, it would certainly be the worst-case scenario for us, for our reason of state, if, God forbid, Donald Trump came back to power. The debate, in addition to Rafał Trzaskowski's lies, was full of media travesties. The signal that was made available to other media outlets was flawed. And on top of that, Rafał Trzaskowski was framed in such a way as to make it appear that he was the same height as Karol Nawrocki.
To się nie mieści w pale, drogi panie Rafale.
Friday marks the end of an exceptionally dirty election campaign. Experts indicate that Karol Nawrocki is now closer to victory. Rafał Trzaskowski still has a chance to turn the tide of history. It all depends on whether he shows up at the debate in Końskie, organized by TV Republica on Wednesday. 5 years ago, he missed his chance, and history rarely gives a second chance. Great emotions and great art. In other words, the 78th Cannes International Film Festival. The Palme d'Or went to Jafar Panahi, a director who has been repressed by the Iranian authorities for years. This is a historic moment for both the filmmaker himself and world cinema. The Iranian director's film, titled It Was Just an Accident, is a powerful and gripping drama secretly made in Iran that deals with guilt, responsibility, and moral consequences, and revenge in a repressed society. Without a doubt, the categories that fire up audiences are of course the awards for Best Actors. This year, the statuette went to Nadia Militi for her courageous role in The Little Sister. The award for Best Actor went to Wagner Moura for his performance in the production of Secret Agent. There were also surprises. The organizers this year introduced a ban on see-through clothing or overly voluminous creations, which were not welcome. The mischief of things did not spare Cannes. On the second to last day, there was a major blackout that caused the city to run out of electricity. However, the festival was prepared for such an eventuality. The emergency power source started working, and all was back to normal. We can't forget the Polish accent of this year's Cannes Festival, about Marcin Dorociński, who took Hollywood by storm and starred alongside Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible sequel, titled Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The long red carpet and the bright lights are now just a memory, but one thing is for sure: every year the excitement around the festival grows, and we are already looking forward to the next festival.